What's good, y'all? I've got some sick buffs, changes, and reworks to Eternatus in my ROM hack. So most big legendaries like this are typically not usable, although there are a few exceptions I make, especially if like vibes-wise they are kind of like underpowered versions of their true selves. You know, guys like Kirim, he's literally like a shell of the full Pokemon. Eternatus is like in his like weakened form. Necrozma is in a weakened form. Yeah, Zygarde isn't in Gen 9, but if he was, then he would be another one that I would put in the game because he's got the same, incomplete vibes to him. So I think giving these types of legendaries the ability to be used is cool. Only exception is like Mewtwo, which I'll get into when we get to the Mewtwo videos. But yeah, Eternatus is one of the few usable like 600 plus BST legends. This doesn't mean he's like inherently broken just because of the stat total. Regardless of the stat total, every Pokemon's going to be like good for the whole game because of all the interactions with the abilities and the moves, and most importantly the moves. So if you are a new viewer here, I appreciate you clicking on the video. Shout out to you. I want to have a disclaimer for anybody who is new here to check out the description below when you're done with the video and look at the move guide. I've got a whole bunch of archetypes of all the moves in the game categorized, so you can scroll through or click on them individually and it'll take you to those sections and you can see what all the moves do now. It's pretty easy to understand and navigate. All very thorough, so definitely give that a look when you're done because the moves make a huge impact on how the Pokemon function. Exclusive moves I typically will list here. So in this case you get a couple of like exclusive distributed moves. But in terms of like the widespread moves, those are more important half the time anyway because they're on every Pokemon. And yeah, Eternatus is super cool. I really like this guy, man. I always have. I love this. I love poison types, which is why Black Sludge is such a ridiculously strong defensive item now. It makes him incredibly bulky. Energy Shield with a poison type is also sick because he can get that extra Black Sludge healing to replenish his energy shield easier. You've also got Recovery and Recover, Siphon, Giga Drain, and then as you can see, Dynamax Cannon is an incredibly strong draining move. That's a 100 base power draining move that also poisons, so that's really good for like Stally or Energy Shield type sets. It can also be good with Merciless, but Merciless I would say is best with setting up a T-Spike either with your Eternatus or with somebody else, and then going crazy with Choice Scarf. Because Venoshock and Draco Meteor both are 140 power moves with no drawback when they're poisoned with Merciless. And you're also critting because you're critting through the Draco Meteor special attack drop. So those are both insane. You've also got Twilight Cannon, which is Dark type Draco Meteor, which is cool coverage, which also synergizes very well with Merciless. And in general, I mean, Draco Meteor is just a good move in general, but it's incredible with Merciless. Super, super cool. Logically, obviously, these abilities all make sense. Levitate is a pretty obvious choice, and it's cool because he's a poison dragon. Energy Shield is obviously very fitting, given that his entire thing is like being this energy, like Dynamax energy Pokemon. And then Merciless is just cool because he's like this evil virus. He's not actually technically evil, but like this malicious-looking virus poison dragon thing, almost like an Ultra Beast, right? Which I think is super cool. It's the only Ultra Beast adjacent Pokemon we have in Gen 9. That sadly the other Ultra Beasts are gone. But yeah, I really do like Eternatus and the stats. I mean, he's really, really tanky. He is dropped a bit. He's slightly weak, less bulky in terms of raw bulk. But again, he has Energy Shield. He has Black Sludge. He has, more defensive utility moves like Meteor Impact, for example, which is a guaranteed burn move. It's also good coverage. It's a 120 power physical fairy move. Obviously, he has Eternal Beam, which is also a recoil special fairy move. That's the same power, but it doesn't burn. Meteor Impact is an exclusive move. I chose to give it to Eternatus because if you read the decks, they came from a meteor that fell 20,000 years ago, so they kind of had this connection to space, which is also why I gave them things like Cosmic Power and Moonblast, and they already learned things like Meteor Beam because of their connection to space. Same with Twilight Cannon, like the moon, it's a beam from the moon, so I gave him Twilight Cannon. He also gets like Subspace Tear because of the whole like interdimensional vibe he has going on with the Ultra Beast vibe and Aeroblast. So tons of really, really strong, cool covers moves. He already had access to fire, but now he has other stuff like rock and electric. I chose to give him like thunder, thunderbolt, stuff like that because of the whole space vibe, and then earth power as well. I think all of these moves just make a lot of sense for him to learn. And yeah, this thing is super fun, super versatile because of how bulky it is, right? I mean, you can run it pure raw bulk with Energy Shield, or you can use offensive Energy Shield, just lets you take hits better because 125, 95, 95 bulk is already crazy fat, right? It's already really tanky. But then when you add on that Energy Shield, it makes him really, really tanky. Obviously, this guy's going to be like a later encounter, not even encounter, a later egg that you get access to. Say most of the 600 BST legends are obtainable at level 45. This guy probably in like 50 at the earliest, maybe 55 or something, or after this DLC stuff, most likely I would maybe guess is when I would make this thing legal. So you get it for like the last 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 boss fights, which is still a lot of boss fights, so that's fun. If you're doing team locked, of course, then you would have to have a death to add that to your team, which is a lot of times people tend to add legendaries at the end of the game, not because they're better than other Pokemon on paper, but because it gives you more time to bond. Like, it's the optimal time to bond with these types of Pokemon. Meanwhile, like, if you're using another Pokemon, you'd rather just do another playthrough of the game and get to use that Pokemon for longer, right? That's at least the approach that most people who are like really well versed in my types of hacks will take, and that's the approach that I take, and that's the approach I recommend you take. But yeah, Eternatus is super, super versatile, very fun. I mean, even just switching to Levitate whenever you need that immunity is good. You're not going to need it every time, but it's good when you do need it. And then you have tons of coverage. You can switch between tons of good defensive utility, you know. You've got Teleport for a slow pivot. You've got Strange Impulse to drop special attack. You've got Screens. You've got poisoning moves, you know, even just like simple T-spikes or disable with energy shield is good. Cosmic Power gives you really good defense boosts in conjunction with now giving you special attack. It's exclusive to, you know, like space-themed Pokemon. Boosting in general is kind of overrated. I wouldn't really bother with it personally, but it is good. I mean, you could do like a Cosmic Power agility type set if you wanted. It would take some setup, but you know, you can get it going. Although, I don't know, I wouldn't really like to use Cosmic Power personally because I feel like it's risking crits and it's getting kind of greedy, and there's so many better things you can do that don't require you to risk crits on this guy, so I wouldn't, but it's definitely strong and fun. And he also, like, he has a respectable physical attack stat. I wanted to make it higher, but 680 to me is like the max outside of things like Regigigas and shit. And I just like this stat spread. I think it looks really satisfying, the 125s, the 95s, and the 145. I just think it looks really nice, which is why and also I just think logically he should have a bit more attack, like he has this gigantic thing, you know. Ideally, he'd be a mixed attacker, but I just don't really have the BST without like significantly dropping the defenses and the special attack. Speed is -5, very inconsequential. In a competitive setting, it would be very consequential. You know, speed tiers are everything, but in an in-game setting, the speed tiers are not always going to be like maxed out. It depends on the boss fight you're fighting, and half the time you're going to need to run a Scarf if you want to be fast anyways, or agility, right? Or Tailwind, because 125 base speed is only hitting 338, which is not bad, but you're not even outspeeding base 105 Pokemon, you know? If you get a neutral speed nature, which 80% of the time you will, or 60 technically, but only 20% of the time you're getting a plus speed nature, which is what you would want, you know, to outspeed things easier without having to run a choice scarf or agility or whatever else it may be. Again, you could do some funny physical gimmicky stuff like with coil and gunk shots giving you accuracy, and then you've got like dive bomb and power whip for coverage. So, you know, it's a gimmicky little thing you could try out for sure. If you wanted to, I don't know. Or if you get like an adamant nature, but even then your special attack is still going to be higher. It's really just up to what you want to use, what's more fun. Because all of those, like Power Whip, you already have Energy Ball, Dive Bomb, you already have Aero Blast and Hurricane, you know, so you already have special alternatives. But Coil giving you defense at the same time is pretty nice before you get access to Cosmic Power. So that can definitely be nice, giving you boosting your defenses and attack at the same time if you want to go that route. But yeah, I would say the main thing with offensively, this guy, I mean, obviously just in general, he's just strong, right? 145. He's just got really good coverage. Like, you don't even need to bother with the merciless stuff if you don't need to, but it's definitely worth the setup because getting up a T-Spike is really easy versus AI. You just, you know, obviously on the lead, maybe not, but once you kill the lead, you can get up a T-Spike pretty safely, and then with somebody else even, you don't even have to do it with Eternatus, but it's bulky enough to do it on its own, and then you can just kind of switch in and out. Say you're running Choice Scarf, right? You switch in, you click T-Spike, you take some damage, you switch back out, you switch back in, you know, you pivot around with your pivot moves or with an eject button, whatever it is, and then you kind of just go crazy with that Scarf. Merciless, it's super, super strong because 145 special attack coming off of 140 power move that's always critting, that's 210 power, spammable, no drawback, it can't even miss, you know? So very, very, very strong combo Venoshock and Draco Meteor make. And yeah, like I said, tons of really cool coverage moves he has access to now. And then Dynamax Cannon is just super sick with Energy Shield, with Black Sludge. Black Sludge, Energy Shield, Dynamax Cannon is such a cool combo, man. I love it. And again, you could use Dynamax Cannon with Merciless, but ideally you're using it with Draco Meteor. That's like the most optimal way to use it, probably. But if you need the extra healing, if you're running like a bulky Merciless set, then you can totally go over that route. The beautiful thing is that you have so much flexibility with your Pokemon, right? You can change them up based on their ability slot and their EV spread and their move set at any point in the game. You can change it completely for free. It's really, really fun. So yeah, Eternatus is super cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. There's a couple other things I could touch on, but I think I will leave them for the sake of keeping this relatively short. because I'm sure you guys can understand, you know, if you just look into what the moves do on yourself, or if you're a returning viewer, then you'll know, you know, you'll know the deal here. So yeah, I think Meteor Impact is a really cool utility burn move though, in conjunction with Energy Shield, the guaranteed burn. Obviously, you're going to be taking some recoil, but you're taking a lot of recoil, but if you're using Meteor Impact purely for the burn, you can use it on something that resists it or whatever, deal not a lot of damage, and then not take a lot of recoil. You know, if you deal 10% and you have a high HP stat, you're taking no recoil. You know, so obviously if you're using it offensively, then you would use something like Eternal Beam, in most cases. So it's more of a utility option on Eternatus, which is cool. I like it a lot. Really, really fun. Yeah, double leftovers Black Sludge is obviously crazy. I don't think there's too much else I need to really touch on here. Just that Dynamax Cannon giving you 50% healing, very fun. I think it fits his whole like virus vibe. I guess I could explain why I chose that. I think it fits the whole like weird alien virus vibe he has going for him, and it also synergizes with Energy Shield. And I want to encourage like defensive play sometimes, or like more slower play, because he already has that Merciless that encourages the offensive play. And even just like Energy Shield offensively is good, right? You can use Energy Shield, switch him in on a hit you wouldn't normally be able to live, and then kill them back with a coverage or a stab move. So Energy Shield is also useful offensively in that regard. And of course, Levitate is good as well. Poison Dragon with Levitate is great. Super, super great. I mean, you resist fire, water, electric, fighting, poison, bug, and 4 times grass, and you only have 1 weakness, 3 weaknesses, excuse me. I just can't fucking count today. But yeah, super cool. If it was up to me, I'd give Eternatus even more HP and shit, because he is like absolutely ginormous, like one of the biggest Pokemon in the game. That's also why I gave him stuff like Heavy Slam and Heat Crash, which also makes physical sets a bit better, because they're 120 power pretty much all the time. But, you know, there's not really enough BST for me to give him like as much attack and HP as I would want to give him. Because of course, if I'm basing his stats based purely on his design, which is what I do a lot of the times, he would have like fucking 1,000 BST, let alone the Eternamax, right? So, yeah, and of course, Eternamax is not usable. It never has been. It's not even really a Pokemon, man. It's just like a boss thing. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll be back for more coming up, y'all. Leave a comment down below if you made it to the end. Peace.